Welcome back to No Huddle, everyone, the show where we're predicting and covering the entire NFL season on a week-by-week basis. Week 4 is done. We're officially a month through the season already. It really hasn't felt like that, but that's just how the NFL season goes. But we've got 16 games to cover, so let's not waste any time because the phrase any given Sunday couldn't be any more true when it comes to Week 4. Starting with Thursday Night Football, we got the Seahawks beating the Cardinals on a last-second field goal, 23-20. When it comes to the Seahawks, I don't really have much to say about them outside of Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet are overall a decent running back duo, and Sam Darnold had just pretty much completely proved me wrong. He's not just a product of KOC, he's actually just a really, really good quarterback, and if they just keep playing like this, the Seahawks are definitely not going to finish last place in the division. It might actually be the Cardinals. Which, talking about them, I'm really frustrated with how they've played the entire season, specifically Kyler Murray. I don't like what I'm seeing from him this season. He's having really boneheaded turnovers. He's just not being the explosive player and runner and thrower of the ball that we know that he can be. And when it comes to his connection with Marvin Harrison Jr., it was not the case in the first half because Marvin Harrison Jr. had a disaster class there, 2 targets leading to 2 interceptions. And then in the second half, he actually turned up, having like 50-something yards and a touchdown. So I hope you get to see more of the second half version from him. But the Cardinals have a lot to answer because they finished really close against the Saints and the Panthers, and now they've lost to the depleted 49ers and the Seahawks. So that 2-0 start looks like it might have been a bit of a fluke, and now they got to right the ship before this season goes in the toilet before Week 10. Moving on to the game in Dublin where the Steelers beat the Vikings 24-21. When it comes to the Vikings, I was kind of disappointed in them. Carson Wentz did not have the worst game of all time. Like, he produced a lot of yards, produced 2 touchdowns. Jordan Mason was okay on the ground, and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison both had really, really good games. But overall, there was just a lot of meat left on the bone. You felt like he could have done a lot more to win this game because you only put up 21 points while having over 400 yards of offense. That doesn't really click. And that was because the Steelers defense kind of returned to their form. That's 6 turnovers that they forced, or around 7 turnovers that they've produced in the last 2 games. TJ Watt now has 3 sacks in the last 2 games, including with an interception. And this is a lot. Compared to the first 2 weeks, the Steelers defense has really found its form again. And I hope we see that more because with how much money they've given all these guys, you'd think they'd be better than below average. But when it comes to the Steelers offense, Aaron Rodgers looked kind of old, but played a very clean game, was a game manager, which is basically what they need him to be now. Kenneth Gainwell had a really good game on the ground, and DK Metcalf had had one of the only touchdowns for the Steelers with an 80-yard bomb. That was an insane play. But overall, shout out to the Steelers. They showed heart. It looks like this is just who the Steelers are going to be, man. They're just going to be a nice 10-win, maybe 11-win team. But they're not going to be an overall threatening squad. And when it comes to the Vikings, I'm worried about their quarterback play because we really haven't seen much in what is now 16 quarters of football. And now to the Sunday afternoon slate. We got the Commanders losing to the Falcons 34-27. Talking briefly on the Commanders, because I don't think they played an overall bad game. Marcus Mariota just didn't really make the throws to match the Falcons offense. But a 1-1 record with Jaden Daniels being out, and he should return next week. That's a good sign. I think he'll be able to right the ship, and we'll see the Commanders play a lot better. I believe this is just more of a fluke, especially with how inconsistent the Falcons can be. Which, speaking of them, they played such a good offensive game. Michael Penix went from playing like Ryan Leaf to playing like prime Michael Vick. And overall, Tyler Algier, Bijan, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London all had really good games, which is a really, really rare occurrence in the time that they've all been in the league, which is now, 3 years now? So that's a really good sign. If we see more of this, then we can expect the Falcons to be a playoff team. But considering they had 0 points against the Panthers last week, we don't know what version of the Falcons we're going to get. And that's what frustrates me so much. So, good win for the Falcons, and I hope they can recreate more of this because this is a quality team that can make the playoffs. But we'll just have to wait and see. And now, what could be the upset of the week, the Chargers losing to the Giants 21-18. The Chargers, they might have to panic a little bit. They suffered a lot of injuries now on the offensive line. Joe Alt is now out with a high ankle sprain. Along with the Rashawn Slater injury, Justin Herbert was under pressure all day long with that ferocious Giants defensive line. And he was forcing balls. He ended up throwing 2 interceptions. Amarian Hampton had a good game, but overall, this was just the most sloppy that we've seen the Chargers offense in this entire season. And their defense, while it held up okay in the red zone, especially after Malik Nabers went down, which really sucks, man. I really pray that Malik Nabers can come back to his best next season when he recovers. But overall, the Giants' offense wasn't all that great. Justin Dart did what he needed to do. Cam Scatterbo had those angry, hard runs that we just see him have every week. And they just ended up doing enough because the Chargers couldn't do anything on offense. They were punting a lot. They had an interception that set them up at around the 5-yard line. So the Giants just did enough. And this says more about the Chargers because with the Chiefs, looks like they've rebounded. This division is not cut and throat at all, or is very cutthroat. It's not just a foregone conclusion like I thought it was last week. Now we got the Titans laying an egg and putting up 0 points against the Texans, 26-0, to give the Texans their first win of the year. I'm not going to say much about the Texans. Like, they beat a terrible team. They beat the worst team in the league, one of the worst coaches, one of the worst rosters. Right now, technically one of the worst playing quarterbacks, even though it's not Cam Ward's fault. CJ Stroud finally looked like a good quarterback, but I'm not impressed by them at all. Like, I still think they're not a very good team, but they did what they needed to do and beat the worst team in the league. Brian Callahan is not going to have his job for that much longer. In the time that I'm recording this video, he does have his job, but if it's this week or next, he's probably going to get fired in the coming days. But Cam Ward, he's just not getting any help. I think he's a good player, but with this roster and this construction, they're not going to do anything this season. They might win like 3 games all year, but I've already said too much about this game. Texans, good rebound. Titans, you still suck. And now we got one of the better games of this week. The Eagles beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31-25. I really doubted the Eagles once again, and they proved me wrong once again. Jalen Hurts played really, really well in the first half. Everyone was playing well in the first half. Special teams, defense, and offense. And then the team kind of collapsed in the second half. Baker Mayfield played a lot better, had 2 explosive touchdowns, would have had a third if he didn't throw a bonehead interception. What ended up costing the Buccaneers the game was that they had a blocked punt return for a touchdown that gave the Eagles an early 7-0 lead. Considering they lost by 6, would have been some nice points to not have conceded. But overall for the Eagles, I think it shows good and bad signs because I don't like what I've seen from the offense. They've really had around like 2 halves or like 3 halves of good offensive football between Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Saquon. And that as well, Saquon has not been as explosive as he was last season, and Jalen Hurts has clearly not been playing as well. He completed 0 passes in the second half. So if they're still able to win with that, then I guess that's a good sign, but they need to turn it up more when they play more and more good teams, because I'm pretty sure their schedule isn't going to get a lot easier. So they need to pick it up, because playing like this isn't going to be so sustainable. But shout out to them for being 4-0, and for Tampa Bay, they were really close, but overall they just couldn't get it done. But I still think they're going to have a good season. This isn't the end of the world. Moving on from a close game to an absolute blowout, the Panthers getting throttled by the Patriots 42-13. What can I say about the Panthers, man? Like, their roster just overall sucks outside of Ted McMillan. I don't know if Dave Canales is in actuality a good coach. I think this roster just needs a lot of improvement. Bryce Young still needs to improve. They just didn't do much. Their defense still sucks. They allowed the Patriots to basically play like how we all thought they would be playing this season. Everything clicked. Their running game was good. Their defense was locking down everyone. Drake May played an incredible game. But I'm not going to drink the Patriots Kool-Aid yet. I've fallen for it twice already. I've picked them to win twice against the Steelers and the Raiders, and they lost both. So if they can prove to me that they can beat the Bills on Sunday Night Football, that would be a major statement game. Right now, I still have I'm keeping my thoughts on the Patriots very conservative. I still don't think they're that great of a team. But this is just the start of the foundation. I think they'll still be a decent team, just not a playoff team. Moving on to the Saints falling to the Bills 31-19. In true Saints fashion for the 3rd time in these 4 weeks, they made this game a lot closer than what it really should have been. Spencer Rattler was playing not too bad, honestly, on his birthday Spencer Rattler. But this game was overall really close, and if it weren't for a botched Philly special and a dropped touchdown by Brandon Cooks, they could have taken the lead multiple times in this game. But in the end, it was just a superior team not falling for the trap. The Bills had a really, really sloppy game. Allowing the Saints to look decent on offense isn't a good sign. And Josh Allen throwing his first interception, you never really want to see that. But overall, he had a clean game, was accurate, was throwing really well, was running really well. James Cook still being an absolute monster. And overall, the Bills are 4-0. They're taking advantage of this easy schedule. If they can win against the Patriots on Sunday night and improve to 5-0, they'd basically have this division on lock. And as long as the Bills just take advantage of this easy schedule and start like 8-1, in the first half, then they could honestly be on track to finish with the 1 seed. And now we got the Browns being absolutely demolished by Detroit, 34-10. This game was really never close. I think it was it might have been 7-7 at one point, but the Browns they just didn't do anything. Joe Flacco, he's just too old. I really don't know why he's starting. If you have two rookies, you might as well start one of them, whether it's Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders. The Lions just kind of walked all over them without really having to do anything. Jared Goff didn't play incredible. He had a bad interception. What he had to do. Jahmyr Gibbs was good. David Montgomery wasn't very good. Overall, this is a game that went through the motions, like I've said many times this season. A great team in the Lions, who are now 3-1, and they look very dangerous, beat a Browns team that, in my opinion, got very lucky last week. They're returning back to their natural selves. They're 1-3. Not much else to say. And now, moving on to the late slate, we got the Jaguars beating the 49ers 26-21 in a very, very frustrating game. The Niners really should have won this one, but Purdy, I don't hate Brock Purdy, but this game, he did not look good. If he's going to play like this, then honestly, they should have just brought back Mac Jones, because Mac Jones was playing well in the 2 games that he's played this season. And Trevor Lawrence wasn't all that great. And the Jaguars got a touchdown off of a punt return. Their 2 receivers, Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas, didn't do all that much. And overall, it's just the 49ers not taking advantage of all the opportunities that they were given, having multiple turnovers. The Jaguars defense has forced a lot of turnovers, so I guess that's a really good sign. Liam Cohen has done a really good job on the running game, so that's another good sign. But overall, with what they truly need, which is Trevor Lawrence to be great, he hasn't really done that. But again, speaking on the 49ers, their running game has been absolutely abysmal, and they need to fix that. And if Purdy, who might have re-aggravated an injury that he had, if he keeps playing like he's been playing this season so far in these 2 games, which is turning the ball over a lot, honestly, Mac Jones should just take over right now, regardless of the contract. Really frustrating loss for the 49ers, especially because I got my pick wrong. But the Jaguars, shout out to them. They're 3-1 with a defense that forces turnovers for breakfast. So if that's sustainable, then who knows? They may actually be a sneaky team in the AFC. Now we got the undefeated Colts finally losing a game to the Los Angeles Rams in what was a really, really competitive game. I thought the Rams were kind of going to blow this one out just because after Daniel Jones threw his interception on the opening drive, I thought is this the one where they go back down to earth? But in reality, no. They still played a really good game. Daniel Jones still played really, really well, but he is Daniel Jones, not Josh Allen, so he had those patented mistakes. He had those 2 interceptions to Cam Curl, and overall, this was just a matter of the Colts just making 1 or 2 few mistakes, or I should say A.D. Mitchell made 1 or 2 mistakes, fumbling in the end zone, resulting in a touchback. No player should ever be committing that. Honestly, if A.D. Mitchell wasn't a pretty good player, that should be a release-worthy offense, but that's besides the point. He also had a holding call that negated a touchdown, so really big day to forget for him. But overall, the Rams, I think they played really well. Puka Nacua showed that he's in that tier with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. He's played like the best receiver in the NFL. Devontae Adams and Tutu Atwell were both great complementary pieces. Tutu Atwell had the 88-yard touchdown. Matthew Stafford had an overall insane game. And these 2 teams, I think, this didn't really tell me much. Both of these teams are just really, really good. The Rams are 1 field goal or 1 blocked field goal away from being 4-0, and the Colts are 1 fumble out of the end zone from being 4-0. So both of these teams, I believe, are legit, and this was overall just a really, really good competitive game. One of the better games of this week. Speaking of relatively good games, we got the Bears beating the Raiders 25-24 on a blocked field goal to end the game. Special teams is a big theme throughout these last 2 weeks. But speaking on the Bears, outside of Ben Johnson having a really weird interview moment with one of the reporters, I'm not sure what that was all about, but the Bears played an all-right game. Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams are forming a really, really nice connection, which is always nice to see because I want to see Caleb Williams shine. I think he has the potential to become one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and he's kind of been playing like that. When it comes to the Raiders, they have one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. It turns out the Seahawks and myself owe Sam Darnold a massive apology, or Seahawks fans, because they thought that they downgraded. Some people thought that they downgraded when they went from Geno Smith to Sam Darnold. That looks like the upgrade of the century because Geno Smith has been playing absolutely terrible for the last 3 weeks. He looks like one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. He had 3 interceptions, and all of them weren't really that good. They all looked kind of ugly. Kevin Byard had 2 interceptions. And even still, with an Ashton Genty really good game, he had his first great game of the year, having 3 touchdowns. They led a drive to field goal range, and it ended up getting blocked, which shows that football is really a game of moments, not a game of having a great performance all around, because the Raiders were so close to winning. But overall, I do think that the better team won, and I'm glad that the Bears are now 2-2. They're bouncing back in the start of Ben Johnson's coaching career. And as for the Raiders, it looks like they're just going to be finishing at the bottom of the AFC West. Speaking of the AFC West, we got its reigning champion absolutely demolishing the Ravens 37-20. I hated this game as a Chiefs hater, but in Baltimore's case, I'm kind of out on them. Their defense has been absolutely atrocious. The Chiefs' offense looked incredible. Patrick Mahomes finally looked like his vintage self, played like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. The running game wasn't all that good, but they got Xavier Worthy back, which means the explosive nature of that offense finally came back, and they were having a lot of deep plays. They looked like the Chiefs from 2018 to 2022 with all those chunk plays, the efficiency. Like, it was overall a good offense. The Ravens, they laid an egg. Not in terms of the scoreboard, because they still put up 20 points, but I can't think of a single player on the Ravens roster that had a good game outside of Justice Hill. Lamar did not play well, and he ended up maybe getting injured, or he was benched, or he quit. I don't really care. Overall, he did not have a good game. Derrick Henry barely had any carries. No one on the Ravens receiving corps did well, and now their defense is injured with Marlon Humphrey and Roquan Smith picking up knocks. With the way they're playing, now with a 1-3 record, like, I don't even know. I don't even think they're going to win. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't win a single playoff game. It really sucks how far they've fallen, but they have a lot of questions to answer. When it comes to the Chiefs, looks like they're going to return to their former selves, probably win the AFC West again, which is a little bit disappointing for parity, but that's besides the point. The Ravens, though, I don't know. Their season is kind of hanging by a thread, and with who they face next week in the Texans, they're in must-win territory. And now moving on to Sunday Night Football, the Packers tied the Cowboys 40-40. This game ended in a tie. A lot of things that I predicted in my predictions video, I got completely wrong. Dak played one of the best games that I've ever seen him play in his career. George Pickens played one of the best games I've ever seen in his career. The Packers defense did not do anything all game. The Cowboys were doing whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. Michael Parsons completely ghosted in this game, outside of when he got one fluky sack at the end of overtime. But it was also the same on the other side with Jordan Love and Romeo Doubs, both of them playing absolutely insane games. This was an insane offensive shootout. What ended up kind of tying the Cowboys the game and then not losing was that blocked extra point that ended up giving the Cowboys 2 points. That ended up playing a huge key role. But overall, shout out to the Cowboys because they still have the worst defense in the NFL, but it looks like their offense can still compete even with the best of the best. Like, we saw them compete with the Eagles and the Packers. So I do think their offense is on that tier. I still don't think they're going to do a lot this season just because their defense is still appalling. But looking at the Packers side, I'm really disappointed with how they've played in these last 2 weeks, not with the offense, but this time with the defense. And talking about the offense, I think Matt LaFleur kind of blew that game. I still think they had a chance to win in overtime, but the clock management, they completely botched it. And I think they could have easily won if they didn't take so much time off the clock getting down the field in overtime. But I guess you'd rather have a tie than a loss. So, I mean, shout out to both of these teams for tying. I hate ties in the NFL. I think we all do, but this was one of the more entertaining ones in the last 10 years. And now to the Monday night doubleheader, we got the Jets losing to the Dolphins 27-21. This was an overall really weird game. The Dolphins continue their trending upward, I guess. They played like an XFL team in week 1, played like a college team in week 2, played like a bad NFL team in week 3, now played well in NFL in week 4. I think by the time we get to week 18, they might actually hit the 07 Patriots territory. But jokes aside, overall, they played a decent game, I guess. Their defense didn't really do a whole lot. Justin Fields had an okay game. Tua played fine. But obviously, the main talking point, apart from Darren Waller having a touchdown in the year 2025, is Tyreek Hill, breaking his leg and then him laughing. I'm not sure what that was all about, but in terms of on-the-field concerns, having a player like him out for what is probably the rest of the season and maybe the rest of his career is obviously very bad news for Tua. He might regress into what we've seen of him without Tyreek Hill, the non-explosive check down merchant. But we'll see. We'll see how they unfold. I mean, it's good that they got their first win of the season, but don't really understand the point of it because I would probably be tanking now without Tyreek Hill. And as for the Jets, Garrett Wilson had a nice catch. Justin Fields played all right in his return. He didn't play like the worst quarterback in the league like he did in week 2 against the Bills. So that's a positive sign. But overall, they're 0-4. They're basically out of the playoff race. Show the graphic already that they're eliminated. They're in the tanking race now for Arch Manning. Or maybe not Arch Manning, just a good piece. Like, apart from Justin Fields' highlight plays, the Jets really haven't had any bright sides this whole year. And now the last game, we got the Broncos beating the Bengals 28-3. Wait a minute. What is this? No, silly me. This is not the 28-3 that I was talking about. There we go. 28-3. The Broncos beat the Bengals. This game was pretty much never close. The Bengals, I believe, struck first with a field goal, and then the Broncos scored 28 unanswered points. The Bengals offense is terrible. We already knew that. Them scoring 31 points against the Jaguars with Jake Browning, who still threw 3 interceptions, was a massive, massive fluke. Jake Browning is not as good as he was in 2023 when Burrow was absent. And if they, once again, they keep playing like this, they're probably going to be like 4-10 by the time Burrow comes back, which by then you really shouldn't bring him back because he's going to play 2 meaningless games. But they should commit to the tank for a good O-line or a good defender, because they made Bo Nix look like a good quarterback. He still threw an interception, I believe, but overall he had 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, played a clean game. And the Broncos, they had a nice bounce-back win. They needed to against this bad team after losing 2 in a row. I think they're back now in like the wild card race, 2-2, tied with the Chiefs. Again, not much to say. Bengals, they continue their free fall now in the rankings. They're not going to be good this entire year. And for the Broncos, good quality win to end off week 4. And that is all I have for you guys today. It was a packed 16-game slate. Now we're into all the buys, so there'll be slightly less games to talk about. But I'll still have a lot to uncover. So if you enjoy this, please subscribe and please like, as any support is truly appreciated. And I'll see you guys on Thursday when I predict week 5.